Hi, I'm Dr. Emma Milne. So in the last video we looked at the fact that abortion is still illegal in this country, and I talked about the Abortion Act. Well, today we're going to be thinking about that Abortion Act and asking, what do I have to do and say to make my abortion legal? So to recap from last time, abortion is illegal at any point in gestation, regardless of who ends the pregnancy, unless under very specific circumstances that are provided by the Abortion Act of 1967. So the Abortion Act allows for 2 doctors, and it's only doctors, so it's not midwives, it's not nurses, it's not any other medical professional, it's not the woman herself, it's not somebody who was to be helping the woman who's not a doctor. Only 2 doctors act in good faith, believe that the abortion is being provided for reasons that are stipulated under the law. And those reasons are listed in the Abortion Act Section 1. So the first provision for legal abortion is that the pregnancy has not exceeded its 24th week, and the continuation of the pregnancy would involve risk greater than if the pregnancy were terminated of injury to the physical or mental health of the pregnant woman or any existing children of her family. So Section A of the statute is the reason given for most abortions taking place. They're happening under the 24th week, and it's listed that it's the pregnant woman's physical or mental health or that of her family which are the reason for it. Section B states that the termination is necessary to prevent grave permanent injury to the physical or mental health of the pregnant woman. So grave or permanent risk really is a situation where the woman's health is at serious risk. So for example, if she was in kidney failure. This is in comparison to Section C, which reads, continuation of the pregnancy would involve risk to the life of the pregnant woman greater than if the pregnancy were terminated. So this is also a very serious risk type situation, but unlike Section B, which has this kind of grave element attached to it, Section C has this comparative element. So is her health at risk that is greater than the pregnancy? So it's a sort of situation where potentially the seriousness might not be as great as required for Section B, but still we're talking about quite serious situations. So for example, if the woman had cancer and she needed cancer treatment, she might not die if she doesn't get that cancer treatment and if she continues the pregnancy until full term and delivers naturally, but it might be decided that on the balance of it, actually ending the pregnancy early and therefore being able to have the cancer treatment might actually be of greater benefit for her health than if she were to continue the pregnancy. So there's this balance element in there. Now both Sections B and Section C don't have the requirement of the 24th week limit like we see in Section A, so these provisions can be used at any point during the pregnancy. The final provision is D, that there is substantial risk that if the child were born it would suffer from such physical or mental abnormalities as to be seriously handicapped. Now we need to remember that the Abortion Act was written in the 1960s, and so the language being used reflects that. We wouldn't use the word handicap today. Nevertheless, what Section D allows for is a woman to access abortion in instances where she might find out that the fetus has a debilitating disability or is potentially going to die shortly after birth because it has a fatal fetal abnormality. Rather than requiring her to carry on that pregnancy and deliver naturally, the Abortion Act will allow for her to have an abortion regardless of what stage in her pregnancy she is. There's also provision in the Act for instances where women need urgent abortions to save their lives. So for example, if she'd been involved in a car crash and had serious injuries to her abdomen, meaning that her uterus was bleeding, she was potentially going to die of blood loss. In those instances, 2 doctors could agree in good faith that they need to perform a hysterectomy, which of course would result in the ending of the pregnancy as well, because you're removing the woman's uterus from her body. In those instances, that abortion would also be legal. So there are very clearly provisions to give women abortions. However, what's really clear here, and something that we need to bear in mind, is this is not the law saying to women, you have the right to an abortion. This is the law saying to women, we will give you abortions if doctors agree that the reason for your abortion meets the criteria of the law, those 4 sections that I have just outlined. So is the Abortion Act good law still? In 2021, is it right that rather than having the choice to access abortion regardless of her reason, the law actually provides a legal defence to doctors for providing abortion to a woman if the reasons she gives fit the right criteria as outlined in the law? Is that the way the law should operate today? Or actually, considering where we are, considering what we believe about women's rights, should the law perhaps not have any place in abortion provision? Should we simply say, do you know what, women have the right to control their own bodies, they have the right to decide what happened to their bodies, and part of that means that the law shouldn't be interfering in when and where a woman can or should be able to access an abortion? That she should have the right to an abortion simply because she is a human who gets to decide what happens to her own body? Is that where we should be today, rather than still within the provisions of the 1861 Offences Against the Person Act and the 1967 Abortion Act? Because one of the things to really bear in mind about the 1967 Abortion Act is if the doctor doesn't comply with it, then they are breaking the law. If a woman chooses to have an abortion outside of the Abortion Act, she is breaking the law. If somebody helps that woman to have an abortion outside of the Abortion Act, then they are also breaking the law. And all of these people could face up to life in prison for doing that. Again, is this where the law should be in 2021? You decide.